Hey everybody, welcome back to Feedback Loop. It's your boy Jeremy.
And the lesser boy, Joey.
Let's just you're not lesser Joey.
But
You're
I mean,
equal.
I think I am. I mean,
Well,
I'm
you're
I'm not I'm not quite the boy,
I
but
mean, neither am I.
I guess that's true. You're a ya boy.
I am their boy.
Yeah. I'm
The boy.
nobody's boy.
You're my boy, Joey. Anyways, we're Feedback Loop podcast. We talk about music. I'm sure you're aware by the context of which you clicked on this video or episode in your streaming app.
And we also have a music note as like a profile picture wherever.
There's a lot of context there.
So.
If you didn't know we're talking about music, I'm honestly a little bit surprised and a little bit disappointed in myself, but that's what we're doing. We're talking about music. This week, we listened to the first album, the debut album of the band Half Alive, which is titled Now, Not Yet, with a comma, because I don't know why I felt the need to stipulate that there's a comma there. I mean, if you search Now, Not Yet, you're going to find it. Regardless, I picked this album on a whim last week because it stood out to me for some reason. It just kind of called out to me. Maybe there was some sort of deity maybe reaching out to me and saying that we need to talk about this album.
Yes, God.
It's a joke that we will explain, I guess, as we get through this album. But yeah, I didn't really have a rhyme or reason to pick this album. It was just on my personal list of albums that I meant to listen to because I'd heard the lead single, which is Still Feel, and I really liked it. So I put it on my mental list, and then when we did the podcast, I added it to the podcast list as well. Because I figured, hey, we'll fucking explore it together, and it just kind of happened. So we're doing that, and now we're discussing that. Or I guess we did that. We listened to it this past week,
and now we're discussing it.
And now we're discussing it for your auditory pleasure.
Boom.
The album art of this album is actually pretty interesting compared to a lot of the things that, I guess it's not fair. I was going to say compared to a lot of the albums that we've reviewed.
But I mean,
it's more interesting to me.
Yeah, like it actually seems to look cool and not just be like splatter art, whatever.
Right. It's got some magazine cutout or some like photograph cutout.
Yeah.
Of like a man and a woman dancing, and some like it looks like maybe they're swing dancing. The lady's got her hand out and her foot's out, and it's kind of energetic in a way, but they're missing their heads.
And there's like a big sun looking thing in the middle. Like
yeah, and it's actually like
circle.
I think it's like superimposed on top because you can see that the color is different on the man's jacket. Where the circle cuts off. So it's actually above. It's in the foreground technically, but it has some opacity or whatever. It's semi-transparent.
You think that means anything in relation to some subject matter on this album?
I don't know. Or it could be that he's slightly transparent. But I guess then you'd see the lines behind it. I don't know. It's kind of a cool album art. Look it up. It's got like some orange sun, like a red background. It's very appealing visually to me. I'm not sure I understand why they're headless or what the sun is representing. I mean, there's some conclusions to be drawn about what the sun is representing, but I guess we'll get to that. It's I guess I'll go ahead and say it's a religious album, or there's a lot of religious kind of context for the album and the lyrics. There's a lot of lyrics talking directly about having Christian faith of sorts. So I'm sure there's something there. I actually didn't spend a lot of time looking at this album art. I just like it's pretty.
It's cool. I mean, like the people in a way remind me of like the Neutral Milk Hotel album where it's like a cutout of something kind of old-timey looking.
Kind of a collage deal.
Yeah.
Just snippets pasted on top of each other. I dig it.
It's pretty cool. And now that we've spent 20 minutes talking about the album art, are you okay? Okay to start?
Okay. We'll talk about the first track, okay?
Okay.
First track is okay. Joey, what did you think of this track? We're going to start with you. Even though neither of us really had experience with this album, I figured we'll just keep the flow going as usual.
You know, I think you heard me reacting. No, it wasn't to this song. It was just Still Feel.
It was Still Feel last week, yeah.
I immediately liked this song. Like, I actually really liked it. It starts off with like a 3-second clip of like some intense rock guitars, like, so it kind of throws you off guard for just a second. It's nothing like it does a bait and switch, but it's like you hear it and you're like, what? And then it gets into kind of like an electro indie. There's like a low key bloopy type.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it because it's not, when I say synth, I think of like big synth, but it's kind of like just the little like keyboard type sound, but it's
just some nice keys, some synthy keys.
Yeah, and this dude's voice is super smooth. Like it's just
it's like it's delicate, it's like nuanced. It's like I don't know, it's unique for sure.
It's unique, and it fits really well with their music, I think. So
agreed.
But yeah, it's kind of like the verses are pretty stripped back and the chorus is big, as you would expect. But I really like how they kind of stick to minimal music, I guess, throughout the verses, and they do it well. And then kind of there's some choral ahs in the background going on, leading into the chorus whenever everything kind of blows up. And then about halfway through the song, it kicks in with some rock guitar and like drums, and then the synths get bigger. And it's kind of cool that it starts off with the rock guitars in like the first 3 seconds, does away with it. So you're like, okay, that was weird. Where'd that come from? And then it kind of brings it back to a lesser degree halfway through the song.
Yeah, it was kind of a teaser at the beginning saying like, ha, there's this. And then you're like, oh, that was weird. Yeah. And then it comes back and you're like, oh, it makes sense now. But yeah, it has this kind of rapid evolution to it in the later bits of the song, like towards the end. It just like, because like you said, it's mostly a minimal kind of deal. And then the choruses are big. But like as the song progresses towards the end, it goes through like several different kind of songs or styles very quickly and switches through them. But I don't know, it's kind of wild. It's kind of entertaining to me. I really like the song as well. I think it's a very good intro track to this album as well.
I agree. And as far as like the lyrics go, it's seemed to me about, and I mean, I think it's pretty clear this guy wasn't really mincing his words too much, but it's like learning to be yourself and to be okay with who you are after trying on many different faces. Like he talks about trying to please other people or act like somebody who he's not or be somebody else, and then finally being himself, and talking about how putting on those different faces, it takes a toll on him and it's just exhausting, and just the happiness, I guess, that he can or the peace that he can feel from finally being okay being himself.
Yeah, which I think is a very, very good message, a very positive message. There's a lot of positivity on this album, which, I mean, I guess you would expect knowing that it's a religious album, but neither of us really knew that going into it. But I don't know, it's not... I feel like I'm eating my words perhaps, and that I feel like at some point in the past on this podcast I've talked about not really liking happy music.
Yeah.
But I don't know, this music doesn't really feel like happy music per se. It's just music with a positive message, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know. There's some distinction that I'm making in my mind that separates this from quote unquote happy music.
I get the distinction, though I do say this album, I think it would border on happy music, especially at times. And just with the sound, there's definitely some sparkly, glassy sounds that come in throughout this album that kind of make me think of happy music. But I don't know. It's not overwhelming to a degree that makes me want to run away from it. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. I would run towards this, not run away from this.
Track number 2, Run Away.
Boom.
This one, like, it has some cool, funky, upbeat deal with the drums. It's got some smooth keys. There's a lot of, like, nice, smooth keys throughout this album. It's got some spacey guitar noise for some ambience, which is really cool. The drummer gets to show off a little bit on the song, maybe more so than a lot of the other songs on the album. There's this watery vocal effect that they put in the pre-chorus that immediately reminded me of Free and Losh, which is nice. the most hipster thing I can say, because I'm pretty sure Free and Losh isn't a thing anymore, and I'm pretty sure they were never huge. But
they're not on Spotify.
Yeah, they're not at all.
Well, I think they have a little bit of their not sampling stuff, but their sampling stuff is their best stuff. So
I don't know about that. That's a discussion for another time. because I'm a big fan of their original music and stuff
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, I don't know. I like them. I like the style of the song. It's at the same time, like, I don't know. There's a certain aesthetic to this album that I really like, but it also is kind of reminiscent of poppier kind of indie bands in this vein that I haven't listened to a lot of. But I don't know. There's some sort of distinction I'm making for this album, and I'm not really sure why. That it stands apart from that kind of like almost arena indie, if that makes any sort of
No,
sense. A
it
lot of those
does.
bigger bands that do similar style music that don't really appeal to me, but this album does.
It totally does, and I'm glad you said that it doesn't. I don't know. You saying that kind of cemented the fact that I think I did a better job picking what I picked for next week, because this song started to remind me of like a mix of Two Door Cinema Club and Passion Pit,
Mm-hmm.
but like with an updated sound. Like this dude's voice in spots is a little bit less, I guess, produced
Right.
than like their singers' voices, and I like that. Which, I mean, I like Passion Pit and I like Two Door Cinema Club, but
Stay
I,
tuned for
yeah,
when we do those episodes.
eventually, not next
Eventually.
week.
Not next week, because
Uh,
something else is coming. But you have to stick around to the end or skip to the end to find out what that is.
yeah. Yeah, what if people do that? They like they just tune in, skip straight to the end. They're like, okay, what are they telling me to listen to this week? They don't care what we're saying. They're just like, maybe these people will recommend me okay music.
But the thing is, if they were doing that, it's more work than they need to do because they can just wait until the next episode comes out to see what we did.
That is very true.
They won't have to do anything. They just have to look at the title of the next episode that comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I don't know why I tangented
It's
off to
fine.
that, but
I feel like we got some room to breathe on this episode. It's not a super long album. It's like 40-ish minutes
yeah, it was like
and 12
41.
tracks. So yeah, lyrically though, Runaway, it's kind of similar to the first song. There's definitely this theme of positivity and stuff, and this specifically the theme of accepting who you are. But this one seemed a bit more focused on growth, where
Yeah.
it's saying that you have to like stop and assess where you are before you can make progress to get where you want to be, because there's no quick and easy way to achieve 90% of your goals. You really have to like dedicate yourself to doing it and work at it. You can't just get it.
Yeah, and to build off of the first track's message of accepting who you are, it's like once you get to that point, you realize that there's no need to run away from who you are, from who you want to be, from what responsibilities you want to place upon yourself, from what goals you want to place upon yourself. You don't need to. You can accept all of that as part of you and no longer feel the need to kind of push that away or run away from it.
Yeah, it's definitely more positive music, and I'm all about it. I think there's maybe specifically in our generation, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of anxiety about being yourself, and there's a lot of pressure to be a certain person or be a certain way. And I think any kind of positivity, not enforcing that ideal, is good in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think I don't want to say necessarily our generation because I feel like it's even more so with the next generation. Like, I don't know.
All them damn young whippersnappers.
like what are we millennials? Are we?
Yeah, I think so.
And then the next one would be Generation Gen Z.
Yeah, sure. I don't
Like,
fucking know.
I feel like whatever generation was before us was very regimented in a way, and then like our generation was kind of more like, you know what, no, I kind of want to be this, even if that's not like my typical role as insert
Right.
gender stereotype or race
Sure.
whatever. And then the next generation that we're not real, like, I don't know, they're even more doing it, and I feel like along with kind of those breakthroughs definitely comes a lot of anxiety. So I feel like it went from like repression to anxiety from not being as repressed anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that makes sense. And it's simultaneously a good and a bad thing. It's good because it proves that we're growing as a society, hopefully, in positive ways. But we're also having to find new ways to deal with the consequences of that growth. Right? It's not all good good vibes coming from all of that stuff, because I mean there's still a lot of that repression. There's still a lot of the anxiety is very real, and it comes from a real place of kind of a fear of being different.
Yeah.
But also it's a good thing that it seems to be that people are trying to be more different and themselves and more comfortable with that, which I think maybe in a few generations it'll all be gone and everyone's just going to be totally fine with who they are and there's no anxiety. But it's a big maybe.
Dude, I fucking hope so. That'd be sweet.
Me too.
But
I hope that
until
we move on to the next track.
yeah, maybe. I mean, we might never,
Maybe.
but maybe.
The biggest maybe,
Because the
or
next
just a maybe.
yeah, because the next track, track 3, is also maybe. That's what it's
It
called.
is. It may be maybe.
Maybe.
No, it is.
But
It is
this
100%
one,
maybe.
this one, it's funky as hell. Like right off
It
the
is.
beginning, it's got some funky bass, and like I honestly asked for just an instrumental version of this album at this point, just
Yeah.
because I like a lot of the music. I mean, I like the dude's voice. No,
Right.
no getting around that. But I could also just listen to the music behind it because it's just super cool. Like it gets some big synth energy in the chorus after that funky intro, and
Yeah.
then they do this thing where they're talking.
Dude.
It's like they go like ma maybe, and they have like as he's doing it, the synth is like backing up what he's saying, and it's such a cool sound. It's just such a cool sound. I like it a lot.
It is. There's a lot of cool sounds on this album and in the song specifically. Like there's a lead synth that they use in the middle of the verses, and it kind of hits this like nostalgia for like old chiptune kind of video game music for me.
Yeah,
and it's just it feels so good.
yeah. And then there's like I couldn't think of a better way to describe it other than like a little whistly type break right before the second chorus. Like it's whistly isn't a great word to describe it, but I couldn't think of anything else to describe it. But I know we're only a few songs into the album, but this was definitely like a favorite of mine on the album, just because of how cool I thought the music was. Not necessarily my favorite, but it was up there. It was
an early standout.
Yeah, there we go. I like that better. Yeah.
Cool. Lyrically, this one seemed to me at least to be kind of about feeling trapped in or stuck in your journey to your goals. So if the last song was kind of saying like, hey, you got to work to get to your goals, this is kind of dealing with the consequences of that work and kind of getting stuck, maybe working towards those goals, or maybe just stuck in life in general, or feeling like you're in a rut or whatever. But it kind of encourages you to keep moving. I think it's kind of interesting that he says, could stopping bring you closer, after he says maybe there's balance when you're moving, because those are obviously opposing literal ideas.
Yeah.
Where there's the lack of movement and then the literal movement, which is kind of like teased to a lot of this album. I think that's kind of a recurring theme, is the theme of movement and motion and stuff. But I think what he's trying to say is that you have to keep striving forward, but be patient. Yeah. Because there are some things that you can't control, and some things that you have to stop and wait, or sometimes you have to stop and wait for other things to fall into place. And it's also kind of interesting that the last track, Runaway, was saying that you don't have to run away, kind of implying that you should stay still. And then this one is all about motion and moving forward, kind of a deal.
Yeah, it's and the could stop and bring you closer kind of hints ahead to a future song about taking just a second, man. Just like sometimes just stuff's going nuts all over the place, and you got a whole bunch of stuff that you're juggling, and it's just like, you know what? Whenever I get to a stopping point, maybe I'll just chill for
just
like
take a little break.
Yeah, for like a second, you know. But
stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, I can't tell if the maybe is in the chorus where he's saying maybe it's not over, maybe tilts you over. Like, I'm guessing he's talking about, like, I don't know. Whenever I first listened to it, I thought it was like if somebody tells you can't, or if life tells you can't, just say like, maybe I can. Then, like, using maybe as a positive way, but I don't know if like he's talking about maybe as a crutch or like a positive force.
I agree. I was also kind of confused about that. where it, because the thing he's saying, like he spins it in both a positive and maybe a negative way. Mostly I think it's positive given the context of this album and stuff, because he says like maybe fear can't define all the walls till you enter. And he's saying all these things that maybe it's a good, maybe in a good light, maybe you can keep going, maybe they're wrong, but there's also kind of this almost ominous feeling to some of the maybes that he drops throughout the song. So
yeah, but who knows? You know, I don't know. That could just be the notion that we're getting.
The notion in the ocean, the notion of motion,
and the potion
in the next track, which is called The Notion.
It's kind of a track. Is it? Yeah, is it a track?
It's a track. It's not a song.
I guess that's true. It is a track. It's like a 30-second spoken word with no music. It's some woman. She is a British model for several large companies named Liz Ord, and I guess she's like a friend of the band or helped them with choreography or something on a music video. And she's
the genius says she's a friend of Jordan Johnson's, who is part of JA Collective, who performed the choreography with the band. So I think it's like a friend of a friend of a friend. It's some one of those connections.
Yeah,
that the networking of celebrities, I guess, happens.
And this song is really, whenever it first hit me that this whole album was, it was like there were going to be, at least in certain songs, heavy religious themes, because it's her talking, I guess, to the band about, she just is talking about how rare and how nice it is to find younger people that have faith, that believe in the Christian God. I'm guessing. I don't. She says
they never. It's never like explicitly defined
in this song, at least.
What religious. Yeah.
I didn't know, because you hear everybody on your tour has faith, and like for most people in the West, you immediately think Christian God. But I mean, technically, it could be like if everybody on your tour had faith, like everybody believes in something. Like you can have faith. So, but I'm assuming
that's definitely the way that I took it initially.
Yeah.
When I like first heard it, I didn't think of it in a religious sense, but more of like a faith in the band or faith in what they're doing, kind of a thing. Yeah. But as the album progresses, it's pretty clear that they're talking about having a religious faith with Christianity and stuff. So,
which I mean, to her credit, it does seem to be rare to find younger people that have faith.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a hot take, but it's rare to find Christian music that is fun to listen to.
Yeah, that doesn't suck.
That doesn't suck.
No, you know what? I won't say that doesn't suck.
Modern popular Christian music.
Yeah, modern popular Christian music that is something, even. Like, it's not just like wallpaper.
Yeah. That's maybe a discussion for if we have time at the end of the episode. There's a whole discussion there. There's several discussions there. Yeah. But I still feel like this album's pretty solid so far.
You know, me too. And I still feel like track number 5 is called Still Feel.
Yeah, and I still feel like it's a fucking jam.
Dude, it is an absolute jam. Because
it's definitely lead single territory for this album, I think. It's such a good, like, groovy. I described it last week to Joey as kind of like a Jamiroquai adjacent vibe to it.
Yeah. And especially with like the bass going on, like I get that. Like there's an absolute reason why this was their biggest song.
Yeah, it's so catchy. Every inch of the song is just so catchy. The dude's voice, he's like, again, he has such a specifically like gentle, kind of calm, sedated voice, but he uses it in a lot of ways, and it just feels good to listen to. And there's this build up to the chorus that has a bunch of like splashed in percussive samples that I never noticed until I really sat down with it. And then the chorus comes in, and there's this really thick, like bassy, synthy deal going on. So like most of the track has got this kind of like soul funk kind of groove with a bass, and then the chorus is very electronic and with these like really thick synths, and then it goes back to that kind of funky business. But I don't know, it's it's a fun contrast within itself, and it brings a lot of energy, and it's fun to dance to. It's fun to like kind of sing along to. It's just it's groovy.
Yeah, and it also has, I don't know, it kind of brings back something that I hadn't heard in a while. Like whenever the chorus hits, it gets big and changes from that kind of soul funkiness that goes
Yeah,
on, and it gets kind of this like halftime feel where it feels like everything. It's like the electro indie version of like the drop, where
yeah.
the tempo changes, the whole feel of the song changes, and then it kind of goes back. I'm trying to think of the other big song that did it, but it does. It's like it feels like I am just too close to love you. Whatever that song was.
I don't know what song that is. I'm sorry, I failed you.
That song. It did something similar, and it was like the first song that I heard that was like that, and then I heard a lot of songs at that time sound like that, and then
Hmm.
I liked the sound because it was just cool, and
Right.
then I didn't hear it for a while, and this was one of the first ones that I've heard that has that sound again, and it's nice.
Yeah.
It feels good. It feels
Definitely a bop. If you
yeah,
haven't listened to this song or this album, and you were only going to listen to one song on this album, I'd probably recommend the song, just because like even within the context of this album, I think it stands out,
yeah,
which maybe doesn't make it a great representation of the album as a whole. But I mean, it's like I said, it's definitely lead single territory, and it definitely like it stands on its own
yeah.
as being a great song, in my opinion.
And I mean, not like you have to really. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's definitely okay to just be like, you know what, I don't. I like the one song out of this album that sounds nothing like the rest of this album, and I
Right.
don't like the rest of it. As somebody who is an absolute genius who commented on a YouTube video that we put out, he was like, it's very hard to just show somebody an album and them just like the album. It like
Right.
that very rarely happens. So it's good to have songs like this as well, where you can just be like, you know what? If you just
Yeah.
kind of like the
Even if you
general
don't
vibe of the
like them,
band,
yeah, there's
but
something there. Lyrically,
yeah,
though, this one it's similar to the others in theme, where if there's kind of this idea of overcoming feelings of helplessness and meaninglessness, which is that meaninglessness? Is that
that's.
meaningness?
I
Yeah,
feel like that
that
has to be a word.
it's a word. I don't know why I doubted myself there. Maybe because I'm just overcome with these feelings of meaninglessness. But there's this sort of like renewal of energy vibe about it as well, and I think the song's placement on the album fits that theme. And the track has like it's talking about those kind of negative hopelessness feelings, but spinning it and kind of reviving yourself with that, which there could be some religious context to that, where finding faith is often viewed as pulling you from this pit of despair or whatever. But I think the song stands outside of any specific religious context, because everyone feels down sometimes, and it's okay, but it's also good to pull yourself out of that place and kind of give yourself a second wind.
Yeah, definitely. Like the having that moment that brings you back into reality after you kind of lost your grips, like on it. I don't know. This song, I feel like not only do the lyrics talk about it, but the music feels like it.
Yeah, for sure. Because like we've talked about, the verses are this kind of groovy, driving, kind of sedated, chill feels to it, and then he gets to the chorus where he's saying, "I still feel alive," and these big like energetic synths come in, and it's just like a total shift in energy, which is kind of fun to listen to.
It's pretty sweet. And at this point, I was really trusting that you had pointed me in the right direction, and then
Well,
I was right,
if we
I
continue
guess.
in the direction on this album, which is going forward through the album, the next track on the album is Trust, track number 6.
But it's kind of like trust because
Yeah,
the
they
first,
play a lot with capitalization
yeah.
on the track listing, where a lot of them are. I say a lot of them. Well, some of them are all lowercase, some are all caps. This one's somewhere in between, where the first T and the last T, both T's in the word trust, are capitalized, but everything else is lowercase.
See,
Which,
I was wondering if there was a reason behind that stylization because this song is definitely a religious song. Like it has complete religious connotation,
Right.
and
So
the T's
my,
could be like crosses or something.
yeah,
But
that's the only thing that I would think of is that although it's a capital T, which looks markedly not like
yeah,
a cross
it look
compared to the lowercase t.
exactly that.
But
Like I feel like, but I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be like just the legs and arms, or I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna get into supremely sacrilegious talking if I keep going with this.
we are
So
sacrilegious people. But yeah, Trust. It's got some spacey synths and some trumpet that kind of floats around in the intro, which honestly reminds me a bit of the Cowboy Bebop's music, which is an anime. It's the only real anime that I've seen, but the music in that show is just phenomenal. But yeah, there's a synthy bass that kind of takes the musical melody under some like almost rapped lyrics.
yeah,
I really like the pre-chorus in the song. I really like his voice and the nuance and the realness, the kind of rawness to it at some points. The bridge towards the end almost has this industrial feel with the drums, which kind of caught me off guard. But overall, the track's very like floaty and spacey. And then the outro comes, and there's just this burst of energy that made me feel like I was being tossed out of an airlock and watching my spaceship explode. But
yeah.
definitely not what the song's about.
But it's a cool feeling. So
It is. I like the song musically a lot more than I like it lyrically.
yeah, it's. I'm gonna make a quick comparison before I get onto the lyrics.
Sure.
That I don't know if I'm qualified to make, but part of the rap parts of this, I say rap in quotations. I'm doing quotations like anybody can see
Right.
me, but it sounds like a light version of Hobo Johnson to me. Like
I can see that.
if you were to like play Hobo Johnson for somebody one time and they're like, I can do that, and then they tried it, but like
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
think
if
that's
I've
fair.
not.
That's maybe a bit rude, but yeah.
But no, I
Fair.
mean it's I was yeah. I guess it does sound rude. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know,
if yeah,
man.
I mean, it goes back to the whole Mastodon thing, right? We're always comparing artists, and it's not necessarily a negative thing.
Yeah,
It's saying like there's a resemblance there, even though it's not an identical
yeah,
kind of thing, which is good. It's a
yeah,
good thing that it's not identical.
yeah. Exactly, because then you get sued, and that's not cool. But
But
lyric
yeah,
wise, this song at one point in my life, I would have definitely felt this song, but
hmm
I'm too far past that at this point to be able to like I don't know because this song is probably extremely poignant for people. I know it's very relatable for a lot of people that have faith
yeah,
because it's about not like losing your faith, but sometimes the trust isn't really it's not broken, but it's hard to kind of blindly put faith into anything, and you're asking
yeah,
somebody to make a giant decision to put faith in what they believe in, and just with so many crazy terrible things happening all the time, it's you just have to have that trust, and that trust is just something that's very that people falter with sometimes, and this is a
for
song
sure.
about that.
Yeah, which I think is super relatable. Like even outside of a religious context, I think having trust and faith in yourself to do
Yeah.
things. It's like I think you can apply this. Granted, he is very clearly talking about religion,
Yeah.
but even outside of that, I mean, just having faith in yourself and being able to do something. There's this faith is a scary thing. Trust is a scary thing because by definition, right, there's little to no evidence
Yeah.
or little to no guarantee that what you're believing in is going to come true.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a struggle that every religious person goes through. And this song is kind of relatable in that way, in that like or maybe not relatable, but human,
Yeah.
in that he believes and he has faith, but there's this kind of like this little nagging bit inside of him that's saying like, maybe I don't fully believe. Maybe I'm not really there. And he's not really sure what that is. And in spite of that, he's still clinging to his faith,
Yeah.
which again, like you said, it's very poignant probably to a lot of people in the faith, and it's very relatable to those people. But it's I don't know, it's kind of human. It's giving a human aspect to it instead of just saying like, no, I unabashedly have 100% faith and in my religion. He's saying like, yeah, like I believe in it, but there's something in me that maybe isn't. And
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting. It's kind of an honest, earnest way of looking at things.
And for the people out there who feel like you can't feel this way, or like it's a bad thing to feel this way, like if you truly believe in something, I'm gonna get down to earth, or
Yeah,
up to
up to heaven,
yeah, there we go,
up to near heaven.
up to near heaven about this. But like, just I don't believe in this, but if you feel this way about your faith and you're definitely steadfast in it, but it's you should be questioning things. And
Yeah,
if whatever your faith is it can't hold up to scrutiny, like, and that's the reason that you're like, that's how they keep people in that shouldn't be in.
right.
It's so what I'm trying to phrase this in a way that doesn't dissuade people from believing, because if you
Right.
believe these feelings are normal, don't be dissuaded by them, and it can end up keeping you with a stronger faith, or you can realize things about yourself that you didn't possibly realize. But anybody telling you that it's bad to ask questions is wrong. It is great to
Yeah,
ask questions.
100%. That's how cults happen.
Yeah. And you get a better understanding of why you believe stuff. So say you have these questions, you get through them, you find the answers that you're looking for, and your faith has held strong. It's stronger than it was before because it's held up to these questions. So don't
Right.
feel like you shouldn't have these questions, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has those questions, and again, like I think I touch on this a little bit later in my notes, but I think it's important for people to assess their spirituality and their religious faith at some point, and really dive into that and figure out what that means for you. But I think what Joey's kind of getting at is, if you're having a hard time with it and it's making you feel like a shitty person or a lesser person because you're having those doubts, then maybe you should really assess why you're trying to have faith to begin with, and what that means. Not to
Yeah.
dissuade people that are religious. Like, again, I think it's important for a lot of people. It's a huge part of a lot of people's lives. And I think that a lot of people genuinely need that kind of relationship. But it's not for everyone, and it doesn't have to be for everyone. So if you're
Yeah.
doubting yourself or doubting anything, look into it. Try to find those answers. And like you said, you'll either find those answers and your faith will be strengthened, or you won't find those answers, or you'll find answers that are opposing to that ideology, and you'll pivot. It's okay to change who you are. I know it's hard to talk about this because faith is such a huge part of a lot of religion, and it's a lot of the people that make up that religion, and it's considered a bad thing to change your mind or to have a differing opinion or to lose faith or whatever. But that's not the case. That's only
Yeah.
the case within the confines of that very exclusive group of people, and it should never be used ever to A, trap people, or B, keep people feeling like they're not good enough or they're not doing enough
Yeah.
for the church or whatever. It's just bullshit. Sorry.
No,
Sorry if I offended you, but it's bullshit.
I mean, it's true, because that's, like you said, that's how cults that's just how bad thoughts get kind of reverberated. And a lot of people out there, I feel like, get scared or get worried by these thoughts because they think there's two options. They think the religion that I'm currently believing in is right, and if I don't believe it, I'll become somebody who doesn't believe in anything. And
Right.
there's so many other faiths. Like, maybe you have these
For sure.
questions and you go and reach out and look, and you're like, I thought I was Christian, but it turns out I'm like Jewish, or I
Right.
align more with like Buddhism or something. Like, maybe I necessarily don't believe in like a god, but I just believe in finding, I don't know, like there's some higher power, but I don't necessarily believe it's a god that
Right.
people I don't know. I've been
Yeah.
out of it for so long. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard and easy for us to kind of have these opinions and talk about it from the outside.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, again, we both have some experience. Like, we were raised in religion because that's just kind of a product of where we live, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think an extension of what you were just saying is that you don't necessarily have to fit into any one definition of a religion either.
Yeah.
I think everyone to some extent has their own personalized religion. It's what you believe in, right? It's your own ideologies and your own thoughts and feelings about the universe and why things are the way they are. And it doesn't have to 100% line up with what your pastor is saying is religion or whatever. Like, even within Christianity, there's so many subdivisions and subcategories of Christianity, right?
Yeah.
And I think that extends to, in a similar way, tying it back to music, right? Where a song can be its own kind of genre amidst an album, amidst an artist, amidst a bigger genre, right? Where a single person could have their own definition of their religion in the context of, their church or their greater religion, right? So I don't know. Don't try too hard to conform to something that is only harming you, I guess, is the core of what we're saying.
Yeah, you can't fit a square peg in a round hole or something like that. And, if you're a square peg, just find a square hole and leave the round hole for all the round people. Like,
yeah, or don't try to fit through a hole at all.
Yeah,
just fucking go on an adventure.
Yeah, land on the floor somewhere. Who gives a shit? You're going to exist as a square peg anyways. Like, it doesn't matter.
Anyways, holy tangent. But I think it was a good discussion, and hopefully we didn't lose all 2 of our viewers from that.
Oh my god! Let's find the arrow that points us to the next track.
Back on track. Track number 7, Arrow.
Boom.
This one has kind of a lo-fi piano intro deal. It's another kind of bass forward melody. They use a lot of bass as their kind of melodic grounding on this album. The chorus in this one sounds pretty tropical in some ways, like kind of islandy, and it reminds me a bit of one of the Strokes albums. I think I recently compared another song to a Strokes album or something. Maybe I just like the Strokes a lot and they're constantly in my mind. But I don't know. It's kind of a good feel-ish. The song doesn't really stand out to me as much as a lot of the other ones on the album.
Yeah, it doesn't stand out to me a ton. Other than around like 2 minutes, I'd say it's the whole song kind of blows up. And this is some of the glassy or sparkly sounds that I was talking about earlier whenever we were talking about happy music. Because I don't necessarily know if I classify it as happy, like to me, but it's just a very big and bright sound that I guess, I don't know, whatever happiness is to people. Some people see it as... if somebody said happy music, like I'd be like, yeah, this is probably it. But
I don't know. It's got some cool a cool end section with some like some synths and some guitar solos and stuff going on. But I don't know. The song kind of fell flat to my musical tastes anyway.
I feel that. As far as the lyrics go, it kind of talks about once you're in the middle of a journey, like that it's a hard place to be. Like you've started and you're kind of in the middle of it and you still have so much left to go, or even though you've accomplished so much, you still don't know what the next step is. Like he was talking earlier, maybe moving forward is the right way to go. Maybe standing still is the right thing to do. You don't know, but it's the time that you have to make those decisions is now in the middle of your journey, and it can feel like one false step is wrong, but just that feeling, I guess, of being in the middle of it all.
I kind of got a slightly different vibe from this lyrically. It kind of had the sentiment of the grass always being greener on the other side, where it seemed that he was talking about how he would set his goals, and as he would get towards the goals, he realizes that they no longer look like what they did, that they're not really what he wants anymore, and he wants something else. And he's always trying to get somewhere and never spending time where he is, because when he gets somewhere, he's always like, okay, this is not what I thought it was. I need to go over there to get to where I thought it was. And then he gets there. It's like, well, this isn't where I want to be. I want to go over there. And kind of this cycle of never being satisfied, which is similar to what you were saying, but it's
but different enough to be a different thought.
Yeah. I'm special and unique. Track number 8.
Pure gold.
Pure gold.
We all
love pure gold.
Nice.
I didn't want to stop you from saying your thought, and then you stopped yourself and went on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't. None of my thoughts are ever like complete or worth stopping anything for.
I'm just trying to keep things moving. We tangented
a
a
lot.
hefty bit with the religion talk, but Pure Gold, track number 8. Take it away, Joey.
Okay, I'll take it away.
I'll let you talk about this one.
This, like, it starts off like you had talked earlier about something sounding like an old chiptune type deal. The beginning of this song kind of reminds me of like an older video game title screen.
Yeah,
it's kind of got like an old sounding. It's not quite chiptune, but it's got that like maybe SNES sound, not quite NES sound, but like SNES.
Yeah.
They're like a little bit later.
We're up to 32 bits now.
Yeah, 32 bits, 64 bits. But but it's got an actual piano in it. Other than, I mean, maybe it's not an actual piano. Maybe it's like a keyboard.
Simulated. Yeah,
but it sounds like an actual piano, and that's different because we've been hearing a lot of like bloopy and watery and sparkly type sounds. And it's nice to go back to analog sometimes, you know.
I agree.
Oh god.
Joey's dying. But yeah, it has kind of like this jaunty piano riff to it, and then there's like a choir kind of chanting some not lyrics, some ahs and such in the background. I'm not really feeling this track musically a lot, at least for the main portion of the song. The song kind of has a bit of a transformation just after like the 2-minute mark, where it spaces out a bit, and I like that section a lot more. And then it goes into the stripped down section, which is kind of a little rocky, kind of a little folksy, I guess. And I think that section's awesome. But I don't like the main kind of like piano choir kind of deal going on for a lot of the song.
Yeah, it was honestly at this song where I started to think that maybe I like the first half of this album more than I like the second half. But I was only 2 songs into the second half, so I can't definitively say that yet. But I was like, I don't know if it keeps going this way. Not that I don't like it, but it just doesn't do near as much for me as the beginning of the album.
I feel 100% the same way at this point in the album, where it was just like, I mean, it's the middle of the album. I know we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of times the middle of the album kind of falters a bit, and it's kind of filler territory, I suppose. But yeah, I wasn't really feeling this track either.
Yeah. Lyrically, to me, it seems to be kind of about finding God in everyday life and recognizing the little things that kind of keep, like where he was talking about kind of faltering in trust. He's talking about the things that kind of reaffirm him in this song, like reaffirm him in his beliefs.
Yeah, and finding some sort of value within that.
Yeah.
And just kind of, like you said, kind of acknowledging the little things that come with it, and kind of being happy with your faith, or at least being respectful of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Even if you're not like, even if you're not through your journey and you haven't completely like recovered from whatever your misstep was or whatever your doubts were, you're still like, you're saying, okay, like I'm having these negative thoughts, but there's also all of these good things that are coming from it, kind of a deal.
Yeah. And speaking of that sentiment, the next song, Ice Cold, expounds upon that, I think. But it's
interesting.
Oh, is it interesting?
I mean, Ice Cold is track number 9. Lyrically, this one didn't seem to have an overly specific religious context to me, and that it seemed more like it was either about him or about a loved one of his, someone being kind of run down and exhausted in life, and trying to help them focus on the good things instead of wallowing in the bad things. But I understand that sounds exactly like what we just talked about, where you're focusing on all the little good things. But I thought it was a bit more generalized, where like you're looking for some sort of motivation to keep going when someone is completely exhausted, and you're trying to like show them like, hey, like it's okay that you're experiencing this, but you got to move on. You got to focus on the good things, accentuate the positives.
Yeah, I will agree that it's less religious, or at least less overtly religious. But yeah, it does. It kind of brings those thoughts back. And there we go. I talked about the lyrics first.
That's
Just
fine.
flipping the script. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I actually really like this track musically.
Hey, so do I.
It's got this like staccato acoustic deal with some pretty like soulful vocals. That it features Kimbra, which I've not listened to any of her music, but she has a nice voice, very kind of like soulful kind of R&B deal. It kicks into some funky keys and bass when the song picks up, as expected at this point in the album. His vocals on this track, Josh Taylor's vocals, being the lead singer, is kind of back to that rappy deal, but it's not quite rappy. There's something with the delivery that's just a little off.
Yeah.
But I like a lot of his voice in most of the song. But there's a section where he says elevate, 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 celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. That whole section just kind of felt weird to me, and I wasn't really a fan of it.
Yeah, that part fell flat to me, and I just generally liked Kimbra's parts in the songs more than I liked his. Not only necessarily because of like the vocals, really, but whenever she was in it, it had kind of like a chill type song. Like, it was very kind of laid back. It felt like you were just like in a little pocket. It was kind of just like chill. And then it kind of brought out the acoustic staccato more feel whenever he was up. So I think that had more to do with it necessarily than his voice did. But
yeah, I think it's fair. And then towards the end, like, I don't know what happens. They kind of like shift the beat to where it's kind of offbeat a little bit, and it kind of feels like the record is skipping.
Yeah,
which is kind of it was an interesting thought to me. So
yeah. Well, after that record skipping, you might need to give your record a rest so it doesn't get a scratch on it.
That sounds like a good idea. And I will give it a rest by talking about track number 10, which is called Rest.
Hell yeah. Seamless.
This one also has maybe more of a chill R&B vibe than the last track, which is not something that I regularly listen to. It's not something that I seek out, but this one kind of is pretty groovy.
Yeah.
Pretty groovy to me. I think the beat drags just a hair during the verses, giving it a kind of interesting feel to it. The chorus has these huge brass stabs, which I'm always a fan of in any kind of music. I really like that kind of sound. The song features Sam Henshaw, and his verse feels great. I really like his voice, but I think I just have a soft spot for British rap in general for some reason. And then there's these weird like synth arpeggios at the end that made me think of the Portal soundtrack. Bringing that back.
Man, you literally said everything I was going to say, other than the fact that I referred to the brass stabs as some dude just fucking tooting into a tuba during the chorus.
Tuba. Fucking, I like it. But yeah, it's pretty interesting song, pretty good song, pretty chill R&B style dealio. But there's not a lot more to it than what I've explained.
Yeah, that was. I won't say. You know what? I will say it. Like at this point, I think I liked the first half better, but it's not necessarily because the music in the second half isn't good. It just feels more stagnant than like it doesn't go as many places.
I agree.
But
I think that is very fair. Lyrically, Rest kind of had an interesting tie-in back to the whole themes of motion that were earlier on in the album, and I guess they were kind of permeated through the album, but this one seemed more specifically, we kind of mentioned it earlier, about stopping and smelling the flowers, not living too fast, and not wasting all of your time grinding for success, and just kind of taking a break.
Yeah, there was a line in here that I liked that now I can't find it. Why the fuck can't I find it?
How dare you just Control F, type in the word.
Okay. Like, this whole album has kind of been talking about religion and stuff, but in the second verse, he talks about Saturday being his cathedral. It's his day to stop and rest. So it's like, the Sunday is the at least in the Christian faith, I guess. I don't know about other faiths. It's it's a day of rest, whereas like that was the day that God just was like, you know what, I built the world, I'm gonna just chill for a second.
Right.
He's talking about Saturday, your day off being your own day of rest, and I just like that little thing that he did there. It was cool.
Yeah, and he kind of like he flushes that out in the next line because he says, "But Saturday is my cathedral. A day to stop and rest is holding up the steeple." Kind of like saying, like, yeah, like I've built this thing, everything I've built, but there's a place for rest within that, and that's what's really keeping everything together. Is the fact that I'm giving myself time to rest and not just kind of rushing through everything and trying to get it done.
Yeah, and also completely off topic, and nobody will be able to see me do it, but reading that little part out just totally reminded me of the thing that you do in school with your hands, where it's like, here's the church, and here's the steeple, open it up, and here's all the people, and you'd like turn your hand over and wiggle your fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all you people out there who know what I'm talking about.
It's a very, very strange tie-in, but sure,
Yeah,
if that's how you interpret music, go for it.
Yeah, and then you know what my favorite meal of the day is.
I'm assuming based on the title of the next track, I know what it is.
It's a lie because it's not this, but I'm gonna say it's breakfast for the segue.
Breakfast for the sake of the segue. We do everything for the sake of a segue.
Whose favorite meal is breakfast? Seriously.
Well, okay, so this is definitely a discussion for another time, but we're gonna have it right now. What are you saying? Breakfast is comprised of a certain set of foods that make it breakfast, or is it the time of day that makes it breakfast?
It's the stereotype of breakfast because, if you're eating like a roast beef sandwich for breakfast, people are going to be like looking at you funny and be like, that's a lunch food or that's whatever.
Right.
But like, if you're going by typical breakfast, then yeah, I think honestly breakfast might be the worst meal of the day.
Get the fuck out of here.
But
breakfast food is great. Pancake. I had breakfast for lunch today. All right, Joey. I had pancakes. I had eggs. I had sausage.
More often than not, I have lunch or dinner food for breakfast. Whenever I have my own choice, I guess I should say.
Whenever Alyssa's not making the decisions for you.
More like whenever I'm not making something for my daughter or something is already being made for her and I'm just like, yeah, I guess toss me in there so we don't have to make like 5 different foods.
I stan breakfast foods as is trendy to say. Stan.
Yeah.
I think it's my first unironic use of the word stan. I love breakfast foods. Cereal, pancakes, bacon, eggs, sausage, French toast, waffles. Fucking sign me the hell up, man.
Before we get into a giant debacle, I'm going to stop right there because I have some things to say. But,
okay. We'll have a breakfast episode.
But, so this one, it starts out with like some big sounding, I guess they're like synthy strings or something. They're not real strings, but they sound like them. They're the memory of strings. And it's, I don't know, like it comes in with some acoustic drums. I like this dude's falsetto voice that he puts on for singing this song. And the song, it stays pretty low key at the beginning with kind of keeping with the acoustic feel. And then it starts building up and up and up and up towards the end of it with like pounding drums. It's got these sparkly synths and keys. And I do like that they brought back more progression in this song. I like it more.
Yeah.
At least it feels like more is happening in this song.
I really like the aesthetic of the song musically. And like there's a lot of reverb on his vocals and it kind of sounds like he's in a bathroom stall or some very like small room that's very echoey kind of a deal, which it stands out on this album a lot. And like you said, he sings a lot in falsetto and that kind of like accents that, which is kind of nice. But yeah, all the instruments sound good. The voice sounds good. And it has this power to it that you mentioned when it needs to be, but it also has kind of the stripped down feeling with his voice being very vulnerable and very like open. That it's kind of a nice contrast, and that also reprises the vocal melody, the chanting of the Oz in Pure Gold, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, because this one I feel like it kind of fits with that theme with like lyrically because. I don't know. Pure Gold is about finding the little things that kind of reaffirm him. And then this song seems to be about fully accepting your faith, I guess. Like it's the moment where I feel like he's, I don't know, the chorus is, say you're open through tears and trembling. It's a major step. It's okay to fret. Here's a safe place to lay your heart down. It's a second chance. It won't be your last. Like, it makes me think of somebody who's kind of lived their life aimlessly, just kind of done their own thing, not been a God person, and then has kind of come to terms with the faith that they've found, and it's their second chance, and it's their moment where they're just breaking down. They're like, okay, I accept it. This is my life. I'm living my life for this from this point on.
Yeah. I think yet again we've had slightly divergent theories. So like you really clinged. You seem to hold on to the religious aspect of this album, which I think is very valid. I'm sure that this song was also written with that in mind, but as an individual song, there's not a lot of like actual references to there being a religious faith, in my opinion, where to me it seemed more about just allowing yourself to be vulnerable and letting other people in. And because like it's difficult for a lot of people to do that. People like to hide their emotions and they build up these walls oftentimes for fear of, being a burden or being perceived as weak, kind of a thing. Yeah. But the song is kind of like, it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be frightened, it's okay to have these feelings, because there's strength to be found in that, and specifically strength to be found in opening up, because it's hard to open up. So if you can do it, then that means that like it's a sign of strength if you're allowing yourself to feel emotions and sharing that with other people.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Big if true.
Big and true. More
big
like it.
And true.
But
nope. We've hesitated too long.
Yeah. So
the time for segueing is past.
No, it's cool. I'll just sit here and be some sort of fucking repugnant creature that can't make segues.
That's fine, because track number 12 is Creature, so that means you did. Bada boom, bada bing, you made a segue.
Bing, bang, boom, bum.
About not making a segue. I actually really like the song a lot. This might be my favorite or second favorite on the album, with Still Feel. Just musically. Like, again, like, I'm a music forward person.
Yeah.
So when I listen to songs, I interpret the music a lot more and put more focus on that than the lyrics. So even though I don't relate to Christianity, or having faith, I think this song is just like fantastic.
Musically, I 100% agree with you. Like earlier, whenever I said that maybe wasn't my favorite, but it is one of my favorites, this I'd say is my favorite. Once again, although I will say I've hinted at it before or talked about it. I guess I haven't hinted. I've just straight up said it before that whenever music gets too overtly religious, it gives me a really fucking weird feeling inside. And I started to get that feeling listening to the song, but the music was just so good.
Yeah, it's got these like serene, wavy synths and acoustic guitar that gives the song, in my opinion, the biggest vibe on the album.
Yeah,
it's very like folksy in the verses with these undertones of this electronic synth bass, and it's this very, very cool combination. I think the choruses feel very big, especially the last chorus. I really like the feel of just all of the instrumentation going on. The song kind of falls apart just before the 4-minute mark at like this outro section, and it gets a little dark and like eerie and ambient, and it's pretty fucking cool sound, in my opinion. And I think it's a great way to end the album.
Yeah, that last 2 minutes is the reason it's my favorite song.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the part where I started feeling super weird, where his voice gets kind of like creepy and frantic almost, where he's like he's full on just like going into it. Like,
yeah, it's like that guy that's like in an asylum staring at a wall and just like talking nonsense at the wall with like just like a blank expression on his face, kind of a thing.
Yeah, like he's going into like all the actual stuff of religion. Like he sounds like somebody like speaking in tongues, but if those tongues were in English.
Right.
But the whole music is just like, it starts melting behind him, and it's just like this. Then at one point this beat comes in and just throws like how you thought the song was kind of feeling. It just throws it like a wrench in it, and the whole thing kind of goes off kilter. And it just kind of like fizzles out into like this quiet piano, and it ends with Liz Ord from The Notion coming back in, just one final line. I mean, that amount of glory does sound reasonably glorious.
Yeah, boom. Which is kind of a weird statement, but yeah, I don't know. Lyrically, I think the music in that last section ties into the lyrics, and that I really like. The song starts off, the first verse, he says, "Look inside of me and see that I am not afraid to walk inside the void like a kid inside a cave, discovering the patterns of my soul and where it's placed. I've been mapping many caverns, but it still feels like a maze," which is such a good description, I think, of exploration of self and exploration of faith and exploration of anything, because like it's a physical exploration, right? Exploring the caves. But I like the comparison of the void, which is like the unknown, to exploring a cave as a kid specifically, because it's a little scary, but mostly it's exciting. You're not really thinking about getting lost and dying. You're just thinking like, oh, I'm curious. I want to see what's going in here. And I think the world, myself included, needs more of that kind of curiosity, and at least being able to indulge in that kind of curiosity without fearing that that bad things are going to happen, even though it's a very real possibility.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, and then to go from that, describing how a child would take to exploring a cave and exploring yourself in that way, to the end where it's like the bad things are happening, or at least that's how it feels.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's really like, he's just vividly describing like
he says these hidden mirrors expose the mess, the selfish turns to selflessness, haunted by a darker side transcends to walking in the light, and slowly I'm recovering the beauty of discovery. So it's kind of like, is definitely giving into those kind of darker feelings, where he's saying like, oh yeah, it is kind of sketchy and it is kind of scary and spooky and whatnot, but there's it goes beyond that kind of thing.
It ends with like an acceptance that there is going to be darkness or some sort of evil, but conflict. But there is a light to drown that out, I guess.
Yeah, which would be Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah, this he just straight
context of the album.
Yeah, he just there's no frills, there's no faffing about over here. He's talking about like, when Jesus shows up.
Yeah, he says humanity is not alone when Jesus Christ sits on the throne.
And he says it in a very weird way, like think Dave Mustaine in Sweating Bullets or something.
Hello, me. It's me again. What a song.
Oh my god.
Yeah, overall, pretty okay album. I think it has a lot of highs and a lot of lows. The highs are really high and the lows are just like So I definitely see myself listening to more individual songs than the album as a whole, for sure.
Same here. There's like okay, Runaway maybe, Still Feel, probably The Ice Cold occasionally, but Breakfast and Creature. I could see those going into some sort of mix at some point. Maybe not Creature. I don't know. Creature might just be like a one-off.
Yeah.
Just because of like, I don't know where it would fit. But
yeah. It's kind of its own thing going on. But yeah,
but
overall, I was surprised by the album because, again, neither of us knew going into it that it had such a religious background to it or context. Having only heard Still Feel, which is arguably maybe the least religious song on the album, which, I mean, I guess it makes sense as a big pop single. Like, you don't want to scare people away by branding yourself as religion, but they definitely do that with the album.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, and I applaud them for doing so. And it's impressive to not only have faith to begin with, but to keep that faith in such an industry where that's kind of like looked down on. I mean, we made fun of Christian music, right? Like, Christian music historically has been awful. It's just been like the most bland and offensive garbage that inhabits music, right?
At least Christian rock, like the modern Christian rock.
Like I'm down for some like gospel hymns and shit like that, even especially with big choirs. But like even modern worship songs are kind of garbage.
Yeah, definitely. Like the stuff we used to sing in church, even though it was a bunch of like people that can't sing just randomly fucking haphazardly throwing it together.
It's kind of the point, not to not to tangent again because we're already over our time budget, but like that's very much, I think, the point of hymns and Christian like gospel music is that like you don't have to be good at singing. It's just everyone is sharing in the community of it and making something beautiful out of it.
Yeah. That was always my favorite part. Or I guess I shouldn't say my favorite part. It was really the one part that I liked.
Yeah, see, I wish I could say the same, but man, my mom was horrible at singing, and I always stood right next to her, and whew, it was an experience.
But that's the point, Jeremy. Everybody's singing together.
It's just, ugh. Anyways, next week, what are we listening to, Joey?
Okay, I got some vibes this week when we listened to it. This album, these songs, and
this collection of noises.
It made me think, maybe next week we should listen to Still Woozy. He made an album or an EP, and it's called Lately. So we're listening to Lately by Still Woozy.
Cool.
And yeah, that's what we're doing for the next.
It's going to be an EP. It's how many songs? It's pretty short, right?
It's 5 songs, 13 minutes. So
okay. So we're gonna have a short episode next week, but maybe that just means we'll have more time to fuck around and talk about religion or something.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna keep talking about religion. I feel like we might do one episode specifically, just us talking about religion, perhaps. But I don't think it's something that we need to beat like a dead horse.
I don't have that much qualification other than, the 6 years of religion classes that I took. And
I mean, I feel like
I feel like
any one person is just as qualified as anyone else to talk about religion.
Exactly. Nobody needs our takes on religion. That's not a thing that the world needs.
Yeah.
And same goes for anybody else. Just if people believe in it, whatever. Like you don't need my take on religion to believe in it or not. Like
for sure, just fucking experience your life in the way that you get the most joy and pleasure out of, I suppose. Or solace. I don't know. I guess joy and pleasure isn't the point of religion.
That's like hedonism, man.
Yeah, I guess. Hey, maybe I'm a hedonist, whatever. But until we dive into the depths of my hedonistic ways, just stay in our please.
Bye.